I want them to define blogs.
Okay, so a Rav in this community, and we're not going to mention names, gave a lecture, a drasha, this Shabbos about community divisiveness, because like his shul is like getting torn apart by like these rival groups, rival factions, and like they're setting up. What is it when you sign your name to a petition? Like, you know, they're taking up petitions to like keep the cantor. Like it seems like most of the congregation wants the cantor to move on, but there's like a small but determined group that wants to keep the cantor. So they're like collecting petitions. Now they've like started up this online website, you know, which has the shul's name and then has voice at the end. And it says, you know, we're a website dedicated to discussing what's going on with the shul.
And you just love politics like this. This is good.
On the one hand, I like journalism, and I think that Jewish leaders and synagogues deserve scrutiny. But if you cover a synagogue the same way you would any other organization of that size and that financial worth, you know, you're likely to destroy it. There's like a shul isn't just like a non-profit foundation. It's also, I don't know, it's holy and it's kind of like a family. And so, like when the shul starts breaking up into these rival groups and they start forming blogs and taking up, you know, petitions and like kind of tears apart a community.
Well, I got news for you.
Yeah.
How do you think that like the Happy Minions started?
Stewie Wax, David Sachs.
I don't want names. I want to know what started it.
These guys got together because they were inspired by Shlomo Karlbach and they wanted to.
But it's a breakaway. It's a breakaway minion from a shul. That's my point. Breakaway minions from a shul, right? They're people who go to a certain shul and they get together and they break away and they start their own shul, right?
Right.
The answer, in my opinion, to what's going on over at this nameless shul, right?
Yeah,
the woman who's got like a woman's name. My answer is, why don't they just settle this peacefully, and those who want the canner
go form their own shul.
Go form whatever, and the ones don't have a canner there. You know what I mean? It's like, if it's that important to you, just break away. Why is it so important to them anyways? I don't even know the issue. I don't care. But if there's something that's that important, rather than drag everybody through the mud and ruin the good name of everybody involved, right, including the shul, which does damage, just peacefully figure out how to break away and do your own thing.
Like it's funny, there are like peaceful shuls and there are like difficult shuls. And this will be true decade after decade. Like B'nai David Judea, Young Israel Century City, these are peaceful shuls. Beth Jacob is not a peaceful shul. It's a divisive shul.
Can we just say the name?
So like every like shul like has its own DNA. Like and it seems to perpetuate, you know, year after year after year. Like, you know, some shuls are just like constantly torn apart by controversy. I think part of it is that Beth Jacob is the highest percentage of Torah learners. Like you go to B'nai David and maybe 1% of the membership studies Torah. You know, maybe go to Young Israel Century City, you know, maybe 3% study Torah in its original language, you know, every day for at least an hour. You know, Aisha Torah maybe, you know, a couple of people outside the rabbis. But you go to Beth Jacob, you know, you'll find 50, 70 people every day, you know, for at least an hour that's studying Torah in its original language. I think Torah scholars, says in the Siddur that Torah scholars increase peace in the world, but I think like Torah scholarship and Torah scholars also increase divisiveness. Because the more people study, the more they care. The more people care, the more likely they are to get into controversy and not like us.
We learn every day, and look at us.
Good point.
Good point. Okay, keep going.
This week's Torah portion sets up a system of judges. The Torah has a realistic view of human nature. People get into disputes. Need to have a way of reconciling these disputes. What should you do if you think your rabbi is wrong and something is decreed for your life and how you should act? You should argue with him. You should give him sources that back up your position. You shouldn't just like, oh, I'm going to go find another rabbi. I'm going to go find another Rav. I'm going to Rav shop.
Whoa, I was going to give you a third choice.
Yeah.
Who said your Rav is wrong?
If you think your Rav is wrong and you believe that you have sources to back up your position, you should share those sources with your Rav and let him respond.
Oh, okay. Let him respond.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, if you think your Rav is wrong, ask
Yeah.
him for his sources.
Yeah.
And if he can back it up, chances are he's right and you're wrong. In fact, this is a basic rule of Torah learning, right?
Yeah.
Your Rav is always right. If there's a discrepancy between a student and a Rav, right?
Yeah.
The Rav is right and the student's wrong. How did the student become right with the Rav becoming wrong? Doesn't make sense.
Well, Ravs don't know everything. Sometimes the student is right. Like you're like the Rav, and I'm like the student.
Okay. But on a Torah
And sometimes I'm right.
on something on Torah?
Maybe not so much. But you've never been with a porn star.
You have a different insight into.
I have a different insight
into the Gemara. Yes. Okay.
So I love Ellen. She writes so clearly, so grammatically. There's not like a misspelling. Like her words just flow. She makes this great point. If a blog endorses a product, they must note if they are being paid for their opinions.
Can I just say something? It's just freedom of speech.
Well, that's the rule. The FTC can go after you, so...
It's a freedom of speech. I can say whatever the hell I want. It's so stupid.
Okay, D-Medic has a question. Rabs, I'm not clear on what the law is on heresy. The death penalty was issued for it, but are people allowed to repent and to carry on with their lives?
Hold on. A heresy... As far as the death penalty goes, where'd you get that from? There's certain types of heresy. I'm not clear on the laws of heresy. The death penalty was issued for it. The death penalty and heresy, the only way I could see that working is, let's say like a heretic started telling trying to bring people into Avodah Zorah or something like that, then, yeah, that would be a death penalty. I'm thinking just normal heresy, is it a death penalty? I'd have to look that up because I don't remember learning of that. I do know that it's what's called a Chayev Kairos, which means that Shemayim, the heavens, cut off that individual. That individual is cut off. And there's different arguments as to what that means. That person has what's called a shortened lifespan, or they won't have any, they will die childless. I guess I'm Chayev Kairos. Or there's some opinions that say that they lose their world to come. And it's generally accepted that a heretic loses his world to come. He has no share in the world to come. Heretic has no share in the world to come. And it's generally accepted that we hate the heretic. Okay, we hate heretics. People who espouse a heresy, we must get them to stop. And if they don't, it's time to hate on them. We don't bury them. We don't mourn for them. We treat them like non-Jews. Okay, but I don't remember the general heretic getting a death penalty. I don't remember. Unless they tried to get the person to follow Avodah Zorah, which is idolatry. Okay, go ahead.
I want to make a disclaimer. Like, I'm a sex addict. I talk a lot about sex because I'm an addict. Now, an addict is someone who can't live without God. So whenever I fall out of connection with God, I start yearning for the phallic worship that I was talking about earlier. So addicts like me, we need to be connected to God. Otherwise, we just pursue our addiction, chasing those false highs instead of the real authentic high that comes from being connected with God. So I just wanted to explain for anyone who's tuning in late and wondering why on a Torah show is Levi always talking about sex.
Okay. D-Medic just followed up his question. He said,
Yeah.
but what if they repent?
Yeah.
The doors of heaven, nothing can keep a Jew from, even a wall of barzel, of bronze,
Right.
can't separate a Jew from doing tshuva.